pretty surprising summery evening to Griffin Art Projects. My name is Lee Clusted, I'm the director here, and I'm very, very happy to welcome Corey Jackson, who's the assistant curator of the Royal Bank Collection, who's come in from Toronto to share some of her experiences working with the collection, and also, you know, not directly, but in conversation with the great collectors that have been contributed to this exhibition. Our second exhibition was also curated by Helga Pakazar, and I think she, again, brought amazing things together in an interesting and provocative way. And it is affirming for us in our mandate of making exhibitions from private collections. I'm sorry, I just got a bunch of chairs from the ballet studio, so but affirms for us again the strength of the collection practices in Vancouver. That people travel, ask important questions, get to know artists, and importantly, collect their works and bring them into their homes. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Corey Jackson, Leonardo Lara, Jane Irwin, and Brigida Freiby, who I'm sure, I mean, this is a crowd of friends, so I won't do any sort of droll introductions of them as personalities, but let them talk about their stories themselves.
I guess the first place to start is thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here among works from your collections and to see it contextualized in this way. It's a pleasure to walk through with Lee and kind of hear about it in the gallery, and to also see stuff from private collections really living and in interaction with each other in a really interesting way. And I've seen a few private collections here in Vancouver, and the relationships that happen in those spaces that are so intimate and are really personal to the collectors has been really beautiful. So thank you to Lee for organizing, and thanks for bringing the space together. It's something special, I think. I'm definitely going to make, thank you for taking care of me.
We want your docile tones. We want your docile tones.
Is that better?
Really nice. Okay.
I'm going to start with beginnings, because I think that's always appropriate, and I want to hear from you about your experience of what brought you into collecting. I think, you know, as I meet a lot of people who are interested in collecting and want to begin building collections, but getting them past that point of a first purchase or making that step into towards identifying themselves as a collector is a difficult thing. So maybe if you can kind of each go through, what was that moment where you made a leap into collecting something? What was the piece? What was it that pushed you kind of over that edge? You want to start closest to me? Is that okay?
I will leave the ladies to go first, though. Through different types of.
We can go backwards next time.
Okay. So what was the question?
So when you started collecting, what was the piece that really you said, I need this in my home. I need this to be part of my life?
Well, for us, works in a different way. We started collecting when I moved in with Michael, my partner. So his space it's a lot in gas tower, still keep, but he has all empty walls. There was no art on the walls. So with my background as a decorator, I could not stand a living space with no on the walls. So we got to the solution that we needed some work to fill all the walls, and we went out to search for art to fill all those walls. And we came across the first work we bought was a large-scale Gordon Smith, and that opened up a whole new universe for us in Vancouver.
Do you want to respond to that?
I'm a bit older than you. I'm a bit older than most of you. I grown up after the Second World War in Germany, and in our home has always been art, but we didn't call it art. We called it pictures on the wall, Bilder an der Wand. We call it. Collecting was not in the forefront of my parents. They were rebuilding survive their business. But I have always taken an immense interest in that someone can paint. That was before we had videos and all the contemporary possibilities. Then I decided to go to art school. I applied to the Kunstakademie in Stuttgart, but they rejected me. And it was my first rejection in the art. And then I applied to Basel at the graphic art, where I managed to get barely in, and I failed again in the master class. Then I went to Munich. You see, I went from one city to another. I was desperate to be in the arts world. And in Munich, in the art academy, I was accepted in the graphic design. And then when I came to Canada, we did not collect art, nothing. I was very keen of art. We went to museums, but it never occurred to me to collect any art, never did. Until I came to Canada. And I'd seen my first American art, Frank Stella. It blown me out of the water. And that was the first piece we bought, a Frank Stella. Well, mind you, that was in 1973. There was not the price what you pay today. There was a totally different art world. It was hard for you, you're so much younger, to believe how fascinating that time was. The talk to artists was given as totally different than today, where you have to show your credentials in order to be allowed to buy something. So that was our first piece of art.
May I ask, how did you come across the work? The Frank Stella work? Was it in Vancouver? Or
yeah, it was. I'd seen it in Vancouver, but
I'd
seen it I'd seen it in Montreal, in the museum. I worked for Radio Canada and for CBC in Vancouver. I was always in the arts world, but I have never seen a Stella. I've never seen a Warhol. I've never seen a Lichtenstein. I've never seen a St. Francis until I came to Canada. And mostly of them were in Montreal.
It's the place to be.
the collection.
Wonderful. I think it's very interesting that both of you have such creative backgrounds as well. And Jane, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you started collecting, but also a bit about your background making work and how that has influenced your approach to collecting.
Sure. I consider myself a true collector because I've always been collecting ever since I was a little kid, starting with my bead collection and the collecting group that I formed with my friends around that bead collection. And I was exposed to it a lot because my mother worked at the Museum of Anthropology, and she also collected a lot of First Nations and African art. So it was sort of a culture that was always kind of encouraged in our family, and creativity was always encouraged in our family. And then I went to art school for 2 years, and then I went to UBC and I did a degree in art history. And so I was always interested in art, how we engage with art, both in the way that I make art, but also just in what art can bring to you as a person. So I guess I started collecting art through being in art school and having so many friends who were artists. We would, trade and exchange work with each other. And then it just became something that became more and more of a passion for me, and I started traveling all over the world, and I feel very privileged to have been to a lot of different museums and to have studied art history in Europe. And one day I went to New York, and it was 2005, and it was sort of the peak of when the art market was really quite frenzied, and it was really difficult to meet some of the gallerists and to talk to people about art. And I saw this Simon Starling piece that's on an exhibition here at a exhibition in a gallery, Casey Kaplan Gallery. And I was with my friend who had been collecting for a long time, and he said, well, I can introduce you to the gallery and I can help you out if you're really interested in acquiring this work. So that was sort of my...
Jane, you warned me about your rock and roll tone.
Oh, I do rock and roll.
No, you rock your microphone. I just don't want us all to hear from that as well. Go ahead. Sorry, good interrupt.
So I guess that was collecting art. I never really thought of myself as actually becoming a collector or transitioning into collecting. I think when people ask that kind of question of me, I cite this Simon Starling piece because it was it's a difficult piece. It's not the kind of piece that you can just bring into your home or bring into your world without making a serious commitment to actually exhibiting the piece. So we had to, we selected a room in our house and converted it to accommodate that work so that we could look at it and have it running on a regular basis. So I guess that was sort of the shift. Yeah, the start. Yeah.
And all of you share your homes with someone as well, and share your collections in some way. I know for myself, my partner's an artist, and we have usually a similar aesthetic and an approach, but every once in a while it really clashes. And it's those discussions that I think are some of the most valuable to me, that make me really think about why I'm connecting to something, why I need something, why I want to fight to live with something. What's your experience with that? Maybe again, if you will, can touch on it, of sharing a collection and sharing those conversations.
For us, we have to agree.
Yeah.
In every purchase. We go through a process. It's very hard, but we discuss, we talk about, we learn about the artist, and we learn about the piece, and then we take decisions based on that. But we have to agree.
Do you usually agree, or do you disagree?
We could disagree, but we just move on and do.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't spend much time on it.
That's lovely. It's very generous of you to just
Well, there are lots of auctions there. You can have everything you want.
This is true. This is true.
I better don't answer that question.
We might compromise.
And he knows how volatile I get if we don't agree. So
Yeah, you might try to change or influence their mind, but how to educate it. But no, we have to agree. I know how.
no, we have to agree too. But sometimes he does things which I don't agree with, and sometimes I do things he looks at them with suspicion. So it evens itself out.
My husband's not here to defend himself. So. Well, I will say,
it all works out well.
No, it all works out. I think, yes, of course we have to agree, but we have different ideas and different things that we're interested in, and I am maybe more ambitious in the scope of the works. I would be happy to live with a Michael Heiser piece, but he probably wouldn't. And the one question that we always ask ourselves is, why do we want to own this? Because sometimes it's enough to experience an artwork in a museum or a gallery situation. So if we can both answer that question, that's a good point.
Interesting. And do you find there's similar answers to that question with different pieces, or?
No.
No. It's always different. It's a different work.
Yeah, it's always different. Yeah.
It's a wonderful way to talk about what's in your home, and also a lot of works. You have pieces here today. Do go on loan. Do you often loan works to collections, or? And when you do, in the case of a lot of pieces here today are on loan, how do you deal with the white walls and the empty spaces in your home that are left from loans?
We had loaned
Yeah.
works previously, to collecting life. Yeah, first time that that many works have been loaned, this guy was just really a total new experience for us. So we have lots of empty walls. But I'm not doing very well with empty walls, so I try to fill them up. So last time, based on my Robertson and Wally Bearsley, which are in our living room, inspired by another collector, I did a salon. Handmade. We have a series of small works that have never been seen together. So we put them together, and they look fantastic. And we're very happy with the result, aesthetically and conceptually, because works that we have bought in different periods of our life, and see them together, we see the relationship among the works, the conversation that we have, even though they're artists from different generations, different countries, different cultures. So that was interesting to see the works in different periods together, and they also talk to each other.
For sure. And what's going to happen when this comes back?
We don't know.
Yeah. It's a big
We
wall.
don't know. It's going back to a different place though, but no one living room.
Keeps it dynamic. It
Sorry?
keeps it dynamic.
We
Ever-changing.
always change. A new body of work creates a chain reaction to whatever wall it's going to or environment it goes to. So we're not tied to keep works in wall forever, so we rotate.
And you,
I love white walls. I love emptiness. It comes back in memory what was on the wall, and it frees you. A white wall frees you from the art. Art is possessive of you, and I like the freedom of the white wall that the white wall gives me. Not to say that I would like to live in white walls. I feel it is a great honor to live with art. But it's sometimes so, what word I'm looking for, so difficult to see what you have. That the white wall frees you again. It empties you from the responsibility to acknowledge what art needs you acknowledgement, and to be free of that is sometimes very, very good.
and cleanse your palate. Breathe.
I wish I could be more like you.
Me too, by the way.
I'm afraid I would become a maximalist. So, I like to show respect to the artworks when we're living with them. I like to actually change them a lot. I don't like salon style hanging. I like for the work to have space. But we live in an old funky Vancouver kid style house, so it's hard to hang works in there. We don't have a modernist house. It's got big, beautiful, clear white walls. So I try to, rather than put too much work up, I try to just rotate it a lot and change it a lot.
Where do you keep it?
We have a hodgepodge of storage, but we're about to put it all into one space.
Yeah.
What do you do? The work.
Yeah. What do we do?
Do you have a singular space?
Now you have a storage.
Storage, yeah. How about you? Works in storage?
Yes.
Yeah. Do they get rotated back in, or are there pieces that
Yeah.
you might not live with and that will stay in storage? We get to see.
Yeah, we miss some works and then we place it. And when the works come available, we just consider what would be the best work to go on the wall, relationship with the rest of the works. Yeah, we know.
And I think the relationships between work and a space is so important. And Rafida, you brought up the idea of really respecting the artist's intent and respecting the work around the artist. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of a relationship with the artist? You talked about Montreal, and I think at the time then when having a conversation with an artist about a work was something very accessible. Do you feel like that's changed? And
It changed from former times today. It changed a great deal. there are many artists here
Mhm.
whom I have a relationship with. I admire them, but we never come really close. I'm too shy to go into an artist's heart. I can't do it because they are the ones who give me their heart, their thinking. I don't want to impose on it. So we have there's very few artists where we really are friends in the truest sense of friend. I love to talk to curators as well as to artists. I love to talk to directors as well as artists. I think, well, what do I want to say?
I
Nothing.
think that's fair. I think that's lovely. I think that's very articulate. It's an interesting conversation, I think. I mean, even from my point of view in collecting, the relationship of a conversation with a dealer who really understands the work thoroughly and can bring light into it, and then also talking to an artist who will bring an entirely unique point of view to a work, and they live with the work as well.
Yeah, I wish I had listened more often to dealers. Honestly.
I have an experience with that, an opinion, or a thought, that we're not sure how to navigate that. Because we meet the artists and we start a relationship with them, but we sometimes we disassociate their work with their personality. So there's two different things.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the way we deal with that in many ways.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting balance. I think, like you said, Brigitte, you bring so much of them into your home, and you bring so much of a work into your home. How do you navigate their relationships around it? And so you put something of yourself into your home as well. Do you have much experience in navigating that relationship with artists and dealers, or are there people that you really trust, and that's a part of the collection process?
Yes, I mean, the people that I trust the most as I look around this audience, so many of my friends here are artists and people that I learn a lot from my conversations with artists, and I feel very privileged actually to be able to have those conversations and to do studio visits, and I feel like one of the things that gives me the greatest pleasures about collecting art and engaging with art is these kind of dialogues, and feeling like there's always something that I can learn, and there's always lots of questions to be asked, and so my most privileged relationships I would say are with artists, but I also I ask art dealers tons of questions. Every time I travel, if I have the opportunity to go to private collections, I'll do that, and I'll ask the collectors, what they're interested in and why they are engaging with certain things. And to me, it's just always an opportunity to be learning and participating in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as you build a collection and bring pieces into your home, it's interesting to me and I think it's important for artists to think about as well. How do you consider the legacy of the work for artists when they're making, to think about how the pieces will live on, and sometimes in homes, sometimes in institutions, but the pieces are now part of your lives. How do you see your collection's legacy? A lot of collectors deal with institutions. Do you see your works having a life kind of outside of yourselves?
It's too early to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. We expect that their works will go to institutions at the end of collecting life. But we're not sure. I don't know how to like it's too early, we're too young in a way to identify that. Yeah, and our collections in a way is forming.
You say it's forming. Do you find threads are starting to come through in the works? Like, are there threads or trends within your collection that draw the pieces together?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do. They have to. The collection is like its own identity in a way.
And what is that identity to you?
Well, works that relate and reflect our times
Mm-hmm.
in many media anyway, pushing the boundaries of creativity and the mediums, basically.
Do you think a lot about that? The threads that bring pieces
Yeah,
together?
at the age where we are at, we think a lot about what happens because I feel responsible for the art. For the artists we collected, I feel responsibility. And I think it's fair to say that Henning and I will donate most of it to a museum in Canada. Most of it.
It will go at one institution or you will split it?
That we haven't
You will
figured
see.
out.
Yeah.
But it's true, we see the art which we are privileged to get, to give it a privileged state later on. And we haven't thought of it, which institution, but most
Yeah.
probably it will stay together.
When we talk about it, we think, well, their works will go to support institutions that already had part of their body of works, so that the piece that we honor, piece we give, it will be part of their holdings. So to have a more wider scope of their artist practice.
Interesting.
That's what
Nice
we will
strategy.
talk
Or
about.
their storages.
Yeah. Huh?
Or their storages.
Well, the storage, well, yeah, but we believe that a way of understanding an artist's practice is seen through the whole body of work, the
Absolutely.
long term.
I think it's something that I encounter a lot. I mean, in my role at the Royal Bank, I work a lot with younger artists, and so often they're not thinking about things like where their work will end up. They don't know which collections they're in. They don't know how to find a piece that they sold from their first show. They don't know who the collector is, and it's kind of lost to them. So I think there's an important role there for artists and also for young collectors as they build to kind of make sure that there's a beginning of a relationship there at least, so that the pieces can find each other again if needed, or as exhibitions are made, there's opportunities to bring pieces together again. As necessary. Sometimes things need to just live
What
on
are
their
you
own.
doing with yours?
Well, I think one of the reasons I became an artist was because I'll never forget my mom taking me to the Vancouver Art Gallery when I was in that tiny little box on Georgia Street.
Oh yeah.
And Evelyn Roth had
Yeah,
covered
I
the
read
exterior
outside.
with this knitted videotape or some kind of material, and I looked at that and I thought it was the weirdest, most wonderful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I think I was like 10 years old, and I said I want to do something like that. And so, to answer your question, I think that the museum, the public institution, is really important, and I think it's important to the artists, but it's also important to the community. And so we will donate our work to a public institution.
I'm thinking of public institutions, but also national and international collections. Did you start collecting Canadian work, or you started with American
Yes,
things?
I'm
Is Canadian art an important part of your collections, or how does that play into the way you collect? Is that a consideration? Or is it more about
we started with Canadian art and as well with international. So it was kind of work up together. With my background, I was more familiar to the international art scene than the Canadian. I didn't know much about it. So so I was more confident with international. That's how I started. Yeah. But it's not relevant to us in a way, Canadian or international.
They work as
We
different.
like interesting art, so no matter where it comes from. we live in the city, we involve the community, we're part of the community in Vancouver. So of course we're exposed to the Canadian artists, and we follow and we participate actively into it. Yeah, but it's not turned into practice.
I think in defense of Canada, I have to say, we started with American art solely because our dealer was in American art. It was Douglas Christmas. And he introduced us to all the big names, and that's where we got stuck. When he left town, we were on our own and we started to explore. That was then very interesting because we had trusted him so much that we went to Berlin instead to Cologne. We went instead to the head, to the stomach, and did not the best decisions, but still it was all art. So I wonder if there's good art and there's wonderful art. It's all in the eyes of your beholder, all of it. But I had to correct that. We did not buy American art because we were solely convinced that American art is better. And we have equal American, European, and Canadian art equal.
Yourself?
Well, I think it's really important to support the community that we live in and the country that we live in. So Canadian art is of utmost importance and interest to us. But I also think that we're all kind of working and thinking about things globally now. So I think it's really important. You know, we're in a privileged position to be able to travel and acquire these works by artists from all over the world, and so I guess we sort of contextualize what Canadian artists are doing in terms of what international artists are doing. So I guess I think of it as sort of a conversation, a global conversation.
That's true.
Yeah, for this kind of
Yeah, I think that's part of the creative pursuit of collecting, is moderating those conversations with each other. I think just as a last question for me, I'd like to kind of know about how you see collecting as a creative pursuit in itself.
creative.
Creative. I
Totally.
think you're all creators. How do you?
You need to be a creative too.
Well, let me answer with voice.
Oh, you got it.
Jeder Mensch ein Künstler.
You did it. It's a difficult question to answer because somehow have helped my background as an artist to know the language, to connect with artists, to understand the industry in many ways. But it's not doesn't determine my choices and my decisions about what kind of work we pick.
Okay.
So we speak the same language, but
Yeah, no, it's a part of your background and you bring it to the work and the way you look at it and contextualize it. It's really curatorial.
yeah.
And Jane?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the pursuit of ideas and understanding ideas and being interested in sort of how people are expressing themselves through the visual arts is that in and of itself. Just those conversations are creative, and sometimes I have to be really creative when I'm trying to convince my husband that we should acquire a little song and dance, you know. But no, to be serious, I think the exchange of ideas is creative.
Yeah, she said.
Well, I'd like to open it up to creative conversation. If there's questions, I'm sure there are. Go ahead. No? Go ahead.
Susanne mentioned the change from over the years, where right now it's different to be a collector in a global market. in terms of, you know, who's allowed to buy certain things, and just that whole value system stepping into or becoming a part of what you do. And I just wondered if you could talk about that a bit, or how you negotiate those sorts of issues where, in a way, you have to prove that you're serious in order to acquire certain things. Is that a good thing that it's changed, or it means there's more activity and certainly more happening?
For us, we start collecting in the 2000s, so it was already happening. So that's how we learn. That's how the environment we found ourselves in. So we learn as we went. And we felt sometimes that we were going to an interview. We've been interviewed by a gallerist, you know, to see who you are, what you collect, throw out names, and think about your collection. We went through all that, right? So we navigated the best way we could. And we were very lucky. Somehow, I don't know, sometimes I think it's because the language we use as an artist, we communicate at a different level. The people were very welcoming to us. They were really appreciating the comments and the way we were seeing and interpreting the works. So that also opened up a lot of doors.
I find my wishes are greater than my budget. And that stops us from getting into the higher class of buying, of having the experience with dealers, with dealers to be allowed to buy a piece of art, because it's out $1 million we can't spend.
Well,
But-
if you have a problem, imagine us. It's more, we don't,
Then that doesn't play a role for us anymore. It's generally when you read the articles about the hedge fund people. Hedge fund?
Hedge fund,
yeah.
invest
That is not applicable to us. It's a good storyline, but it doesn't touch us. We know we have 5 dealers, 6 dealers, maybe 7 dealers, and we stay true to them.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult these days.
You don't need to tell them what you have, they know what you have. But others, we don't touch. It's not our world.
Yeah, it's a relationship, but you know, it's a market like any other market. It's you know, and it doesn't have rules like most other markets have. So
Yeah, it's true. It doesn't.
it's a strange world. You know, I remember the first time I went to an art fair. The International Art Fair, I couldn't get an art dealer to talk to me. You know, it was like this really heated market, and everybody was like taking number. There's 15 holds on this piece already. You couldn't even ask a question. And then I was in London in 2008 in October for the Frieze Art Fair, and you know, that world changed dramatically then when the whole economic market collapsed. So, you know, it's driven a lot by that, but you know, I think it's also about building relationships, and it's also about, you know, meeting people that you trust, and you know,
Yeah, relationships are.
I feel like you guys, like, there's really, you know, international, there's just a small handful of galleries that we work with that I feel that I can implicitly trust.
Interesting, thank you. I think the role of the dealer is a really essential one in terms of building trust and knowing your collection and understanding what can become a part of it and feels natural. Yes, go ahead.
What about buying directly from the artist when the artist doesn't have a dealer? Do you know, if you see a show, the artist isn't represented, you're interested in work, do you make an effort to collect in that way?
We did.
We do.
We did.
Yeah, we do too.
So you'll find out who the artist is and you'll contact the artist.
And buy directly from the artist. Yeah.
Well, if he or she doesn't have a dealer, then otherwise I don't go to an artist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious, as your collections sort of develop your identity and personality, do you find that when you are going to buy a piece that you always sort of feel responsible to maintain that identity or buy something that's going to complement your collection, or do you sometimes find yourself just going off completely left field and buying something that maybe doesn't seem to fit as much, but you just feel really passionate about it? Like, how much are you beholden to your collections?
Well, for us, the collection has its identity, right? But we also we are two individuals that experiencing life and moving forward with it. So we change as well. So we do have gone to different periods of it, and we do surprise ourselves by being attracted to works that we don't, nothing to do with our collection. Or we admire a lot of artists that not really, that we don't collect, or they not have the same aesthetic, but we appreciate them. And have been few cases that we really saw in love with their work, that we want to have a sample of this practice just because we love it, but nothing to do with the rest of the collection. Yeah, it's very personal in many ways.
No, it's a reflection of your
The
evolution as
personal
well.
exactly.
Just a question, it didn't come up at all, but I've been noticing in Vancouver there's a rise of art consultants. And what do you think they're doing to the collecting community?
The question is about art consultants.
Art consultant.
Art consultant.
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, when we acquired the Simon Starling work, I actually was working with a very good friend of ours who is, a serious collector in Canada as an art consultant, and I wouldn't have been able to actually negotiate acquiring a piece like that without being vetted by somebody like that at that time. But this person was incredibly well respected and collecting for 30 years or longer. So for me, sort of learning from him was kind of like getting my PhD in contemporary art in a way. I'm not sure everybody can offer that experience, but for me, I don't work with an advisor anymore. It's far too personal, and I feel like my ideas are valid without that.
We never had an advisor. We are our own advisors. We are too long-winded. But I regret not listening to certain dealers in the beginning, especially in Munich, Mrs. Koenig. She introduced me to Rosemary Trouble.
Oh.
I did not get it.
Oh.
I did not understand it. I was just blind. I wish I had listened to her.
Yeah.
But this is part you pay without an advisor. You have to trust your dealer. And if you're once a year in Germany, that's not long enough of a guideline you have. You're not long enough someone you can trust. It's dicey.
Do you have any regrets, Leah?
Some comments?
Any regrets?
No, actually, we don't.
No?
No, we're trying to figure that out, and we do not. Because we make decisions. We make decisions based on our desires, ideas, and resources. So there is no regret. We move on very quickly. Yeah, but I would have something to say about our advisors. I think they're very helpful. For somebody who wants helpful. Somebody who wants to start collecting is a great way of saving time and money. Yeah, even though we never use our advisor, we never. But we will consider now if we want to have access to a particular artist that is difficult to get in, then we will go to an advisor, which will make it easier.
Shane, do you have any misses? Things that have slipped through your fingers?
Yes. Let's leave it at
We all have regrets.
no. You know what? There's always so much interesting artwork to engage with. Yes, I do have some regrets, but I know that there's always something around the corner.
You won't dwell on the regrets. I guess maybe one more question and then.
I have a question about the display of the collection, because you are sort of integrating other collections of furniture and other art, and I'm just curious about that process, and because you end up composing the work within your space, and I guess I'm curious about that process, and does work shift because you buy something and you want it to have a dialogue with something else, and just how that works for you.
Good question. Yeah. How does the art live in its environment?
The art determines everything in our house. It's all about the art. But that's a choice. Yeah, it's a very important part in our life. So we live surrounded by it. And we always have a curatorial approach. But for us, it has to make sense and they have to relate to each other. So it's very organic.
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a home, so we want to live in a home that's surrounded by artwork, so that's affected by, just the objects that one has to have in a home. I try and be thoughtful about it. It's different, for example, with Grey Church, the collection space that we have, but it still is, a semi-domesticated environment. It's really interesting, actually. This is one of the most wonderful things about Griffin Art Projects and working with Helga and being part of this exhibition is to see some of the work that we've lived with in a very different way, contextualized in a space like this and through the eyes of other people. So it changes, obviously.
Yeah, that's an exciting part for us as well about this exhibition, to see how the works of our collection relate to the works of your collection, Jenny. Yeah.
I think it's an important opportunity.
We live with no furniture.
You
guys are purists. Just something to strive toward. That's why I love white walls.
Keep it simple. Okay.
Minimalistic, yeah.
Well, hopefully everyone can have a chance to look at the pieces, perhaps ask questions. I'm going to close it for now and say thank you so much to the three of you. It's such a pleasure to be surrounded by your work, and I look forward to spending some more time with it. And thank you for sharing in so many ways your collections with us tonight.
I want to thank the collectors as well, and Corey especially, for opening up for us. This is this amazing proposal that was dreamed up by the Friday family. To have this space, to hire professional curators, to bring scholarship and interpretation to works, often of museum quality, that are in private homes. I think this event is the first of many that we can imagine through this mandate, that for the first time, Brigitte, take you out from behind your collection, put you on stage. But what I think the intention of that is for us to further understand what the role of collecting in this community is. And I think some really important things came up tonight for us to think about exactly how important that role is. So thank you very much, and thank you all for coming. I'm thrilled to mention the next show. So this is something that we're working on right now with the curator Patrick Anderson. But really came out of an idea from the family and the foundation, which was to do an exhibition of the painter N. Aristotle. Many of you will know that work. He was a very well-known painter here in the 70s and 80s. And Patrick was very close with him and his wife, Alana Alani, who had a Italia gallery. And the exhibition will actually be a survey of Anne's work, shown and contextualized with works from Alana and Anne's collection. And they had quite a collection. So there's Art Schwager and Rippersberg and Gursky and Jeff Wall and many, many incredible works, again, of museum quality, that will be shown with this important survey of Anne Salute. And we'll also be creating a catalog for that exhibition to further the scholarship of the memory of that painter. And Callie, because I have to, because you said this, I'm also super excited about our September show, which is going to be curated by Gareth Moore and Anne Lau. And they're currently doing so many studio visits, I can't believe it, but they're visiting artists and looking at the artworks that they've collected and that they've brought into their house, and they'll be making an exhibition of some of the most from the collections of some of the most interesting artists in Vancouver. So we're really looking forward to that as well.
When is the Air Salute show?
Air Salute show opens on June 25th. That'll be our summer exhibition, and then the what do they call it? Modeling Kitchen. Gareth and Anne show opens at the end of September. So we'll be sending out information about that. Also, another really exciting thing that is growing here at Griffin Art Projects is that the family designated some studios on the far side. We have community studios that we rent out, which is fantastic. We have this great community of North Van artists who are upstairs in the studios, but we also have a residency program. And as our first invitee, we invited Charlene Vickers, and she's been busy in the studio working away. And she'll be presenting a performance here on the last day of this exhibition on June 4th. So this will be something that will also be becoming a part of our public programs and just the overall impact that the foundation can make on the Vancouver community.